Thank you. Thank you. Mabuhay. ¿Cómo está? Now, by a show of hands, when you're flying, how many of you like to talk to the person next to you? And how many of you hate that person? So I was sitting by this nice guy named Rick Hernandez, and I was talking to him for a little bit, and I asked him, you know, what do you do for a living? He goes, well, I'm a musician. So he didn't realize I had 4 cups of coffee, so I just go, oh my gosh, you're a musician? This is what Lady Gaga does with all the little monsters. This is what the Biebs does. This is why Taylor Swift went dark on social. Now she's light again. And then after 10 minutes, this nice lady saved him because she came up and tapped me on the shoulder and asked for an autograph. And I'm super excited because no one ever recognizes the author on a plane, but I'd been carrying around a Sharpie pen for 3 years just in case this ever happened. And so I'm digging through my bag, hoping that that Sharpie's not dried out. But then I quickly realized that she didn't want my autograph, she wanted his autograph. She wanted 11-time Grammy Award-winning Rick's autograph, who most of us know by Bruno Mars. And I'm sitting there going, 3 more hours to get to LA. Was I just saying, hey, if only you did this, maybe you could sell some music out there today. But we're gonna have some fun here today. I do wanna know a little bit more about you. So I'm gonna put some images up on the screen here behind me. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna use our thumbs. We're gonna use our thumbs. So it's a little tricky, but if you're a night person, then you'd vote with your right thumb. So you'd raise your right thumb. And if you're a morning person, then you'd raise your left thumb. And I'm gonna switch these out too. I like this person back there. He's got both of them up. That's awesome. That's fun. That'll be fun tonight. And we'll keep it somewhat clean. We won't do politics in here today, but when you look at that, that's all just an example of a big data. But we don't really care about big data. What we care about is really small data. How do we take that information and actually surprise and delight our customers? It was funny, I was just at a big data conference, and the other speaker, I know basketball is huge here in this country. The other speaker was Magic Johnson. And some of you may know that Magic Johnson, he played college basketball at Michigan State University. Just so happened many, many years after he played there, I played basketball at Michigan State University. Our basketball playing careers are a little different. Magic's is here and mine is here. I started off as the water boy at Michigan State, and then I finally walked on and got a scholarship. And Draymond Green played at Michigan State as well. But what I wanted to do is I asked some of the MIT students, I go, hey, we're going to this big data conference. Do you mind looking into the data to see if there's a data point to where I was better at Magic Johnson in basketball? So kind of mission impossible, but they come back and they're super excited. They found a data point. And I go, well, you found a data point where it was better? And they go, yeah, your number 42 was higher than his 33. But as we dig into this, as we dig in beyond this, what we want to look at is we want to look at a couple trends. We want to look at, see what trends are out there before I get into the habits of digital leadership. To help me showcase the trends that are out there today, we put together this quick animated film just to show where we are in the year 2019 when it comes to digital leadership. Thank you. Thank you. Now, when we look at that, there's a word in there that's called socialnomics, and all that word means, that's the name of my first book, but all that word means is that word of mouth is now world of mouth, or word of mouth is now on digital steroids. So our best customers, there's a lot of different people in this room, but our best customers, our best employees, our best partners have always come from word of mouth, but it's been slow. And that's what's beautiful about today's digital age. When you think about social, mobile, and digital, now word of mouth is actually world of mouth. We actually have that speed. And so it's really a great time for any of us out there to have success. Now, some other things that are going to come, we know they're coming, we just don't know when they're coming. So mobile voting. In mobile voting, it might be that we don't need senators and Congress people anymore, because if you can vote for every issue on your device, then you don't need people to represent you. So that is coming, we just don't know when it's coming. Another thing when it comes to digital leaders that's been a massive shift is just our decisions have to be so much faster than they've ever been before. And there's actually too much information rather than 15, 20 years ago, lack of information. So too much information when we're making these decisions. And then the other thing, when we're talking about the speed of change, these decisions are harder because you often have to kill something that's working well at your company. You have to kill something that's working well at your company. Or as MVP would say, it's really, you've got to pivot or perish. And so that's easier said than done. There's an old saying in Silicon Valley that if someone's going to eat your lunch, it might as well be you. Meaning you have to cannibalize your own product. So if you have the iPod, you better make the iPhone and kill the iPod off, which is hard to do. And so when we make these decisions, this is probably hard to see in the back, but this is a company that in 2011 decided to make a decision that most of us would. They're very successful doing this thing, but they could see the world was moving over here. And so they did what most of us would probably do. I'd say 90% of us would say, well, let's do both. Let's do both. Let's kind of keep this thing, and then we'll do this other thing, the new thing. And when they announced that it was a bad decision, this is what happened to their stock price when they said they were going to do both. Anyone guess who this is? So it's Netflix. So they wanted to keep their DVD shipping business and then go into live streaming. But since the stock crashed so bad, it actually forced them to immediately go into live streaming business, which was the right decision to do that. And it's constantly changing. This week, their stock's down because Disney and some other people are pulling their content from Netflix. So again, they're going to have to reinvent themselves again if they want to survive. So pivot or perish. The other thing that's changed is that privacy is now dead. So it's not that we ask for privacy to be dead, it's just we need to kind of step into that and embrace it. And when we think about privacy being dead, they actually have, I know they just passed a law here, I think I heard that you can't look at your phone when you're walking because you might get hit by something. Ironically enough, I was just out in Silicon Valley, they have a contact lens that they're close to getting perfected where you can actually see everything that's on your phone right in front of your face, which is great for someone like me. I'm not very good with names, so it can recognize your face and tell me everything about you. But what Pepsi does, they don't have these contact lenses, but they have some glasses, and they take one of the best NASCAR sports car drivers of all time, Jeff Gordon, and they put him in a disguise, and they have him wear these glasses, and they have him go into a local car dealership to act like he's going to buy a used car.
Glasses cam to show you everything that I see.
How you doing?
Hello. I'm Mike.
Hey, nice to meet you, Mike.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Nice and easy. Just head on out whenever you're ready.
Are you ready to go ahead and drive? Okay,
sure.
Whoa.
That's all right.
A little more than I'm used to.
It's got some power, so just
So they obviously have very good lawyers at Pepsi to be able to do that. Now, I was talking to the lady that put this on, and she was told no 10 times. She was told no 10 times. So it's really about pushing through to get that breakthrough. It's about living on that edge when you think about it. The whole conference is about living on that edge. It's about pushing through to get that actual breakthrough. Now, the other thing when it comes to privacy being dead is that all of us as individuals and also as organizations and brands and services, we all have what's called a digital stamp. And so a digital stamp's comprised of two things. It's comprised of your digital footprint. Now, your digital footprint's anything that you upload about yourself, about your company, or about your brand. So you somewhat have control over that. But the more important piece is the digital shadow, and that's what other people post about you online. And so collectively, those form your digital stamp. And so as a company or as a teenager, it's really about producing your best digital stamp and then protecting it. So produce and then also to protect it. Now, we're talking about speed, change, super fast. Everything's moving super fast. Some things move a little slower than we'd anticipate. And one of those is digital reading. So how many of you still prefer to read on paper? Yeah, over 90% of the world still prefers to read on paper. At the college level, they still prefer to read on paper. Now, that doesn't mean we're always going to read on paper. Most of us are probably a combination. When we travel, we probably read digitally, and then when we're at home, we read on paper. So again, 25% faster to read on paper. But some folks at MIT, they wanted to look at it and they said, wait, how can we devise something, how can we invent something to where it's actually faster to read on our mobile devices? And this is what they've come up with. All right, you guys can take a breath. I love it. You guys are super competitive. You're like, I can do it. Give me 1,000. And then you go, what'd the speaker talk about? You go, I have no idea, but I read 8 books this week. It was awesome. But when we look at all this technology, the key thing that all digital leaders understand is that it's not designed to replace face-to-face. It's there when time and distance are an issue. So again, it's not designed to replace the coffees, the lunches, the face-to-face at these conferences. It's really designed to help us when time and distance are an issue. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to look at the research and figure out, what does it mean to be a digital leader? What are the habits that digital leaders practice? And they practice each and every day. And so when we went into the research, we didn't know if it was going to be 30 habits, if it was going to be 3 habits. But it turns out there's 5 common habits that they all practice. Now, you guys are super competitive. I just saw that. So what I don't want you to do, it's in our DNA that you're going to run out and go, I'm going to start practicing all 5 of these habits. These are just the common habits that they share. Most of them only practice 2 of these. And for the sake of our time here today, I just want you to think through which one of these habits you're already strong in. So you're here, you're successful, you're already super strong in one of these habits. You're probably good at all 5, but for the sake of what we're doing here today, I want you to think through which one you're the strongest in. And then at the end, we'll do a little poll with our hands to figure out how the room breaks out here. But the 5 habits, they form the acronym STAMP, so it's easy for us to remember. It's about simple, true, act, map, and then also P for people. So the first one, it's really about simplification. It's not about adding stuff to your already busy plate. Your plate's already more than full. So it's really about how do I take away, how do I simplify things. And when you simplify things, it's very powerful. So when I play this advertisement behind me, I want you to think through what's missing that would normally be there in an advertisement, but by its omission actually makes it stronger. Now, what was missing? I know that felt like your last board meeting, I'm sure, but what was missing from that? There's no words. There's no words, which is important because now they can show it in any country in the world because you can still understand it. And then on YouTube, it has a chance to go viral because you don't have to understand the language to understand what's happening. Now, when we look at this, how many of you like to make to-do lists? I figured most of you probably make to-do lists. How many like to write them on paper? And then how many of you there's box checkers and then there's cross outers. How many of you like to box check, to do the boxes? Okay. And how many like to just cross it out? You like to cross it? Okay, cool. The reason we do that is because it gives us a dopamine hit. Feels good. We're like, done. Yes, done. Now, how many of you make a not to-do list? Yeah, it's about 4%, which is about global. 4% of us make not to-do lists. It turns out digital leaders index very high on making not to-do lists. And actually we call them not yet lists, a little more positive. And so what we do, I used to make to-do lists. They're still good. To-do lists are good, but I go to-do, 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 to-do. The issue is I'm working on number 1, but my brain, the neuroscience shows my brain's thinking about number 37 because it wants to complete any unfinished task. So the best way to give us more processing power and actually simplify is to move almost everything to the not to-do list. Again, we like to call them not yet lists. So you put them over there. The other thing that's good about that is with teams is that if their project's on the not yet list, they work harder to get this project done so they can move their project over. So that's one of the simplest ways for those in here to actually simplify your life is to start making a not to-do list and have everything default to it. Now, how many of you, because you've got your personal life, you got kids, whatever it is, family, and then you've got your business life, have had to become pretty good at multitasking? Yeah, I've got my hand raised. It turns out that we can't really multitask, that it's really switch tasking. So the reason we multitask is good. We want to get more done. We want to beat Father Time, even though Father Time's undefeated. But ironically enough, we're getting less done. Because when we're switch tasking, our brain's figuring out what's more important, A or B, A or B, A or B. And the moment we're doing that, our IQ can drop up to 15 points. And as my dad would say, son, that's a lot of points for you. That's the equivalent of not sleeping for 36 hours. Or for teens, your production can drop up to 40% when you're multitasking. So again, that's a tactical takeaway for most of us in this room, is just the easiest way to simplify is to stop multitasking and focus on one thing at a time. Easier said than done. I'm a recovering multitasker for the last 8 years, so I catch myself every day saying stop, focus on one thing at a time. Now, if we can't multitask, what can we do that helps increase our efficiency? There's a 20-20-20 rule. It turns out that most of us in here work best in 20-minute segments. And so it's not about sitting there and just rocking out for 5 hours. It's actually about taking strategic breaks. And so every 20 minutes, you should actually take a strategic break, usually stand up, because motion creates emotion, which creates energy. Stand up, and then look at a fixed object at least 20 feet in the distance for 20 seconds. So every 20 minutes, take a break, look 20 feet in the distance for 20 seconds. Because with the devices that are wonderful, but all the blue light that's coming at us, we don't know what the long-term ramification is, but the short-term effect is that it causes eye strain. And the problem with eye strain, it causes your whole body to be fatigued. So by doing the 20-20-20, it helps reduce the eye strain, which helps increase your energy. Now that's S for simple. So for a lot of you in this room, that's your superpower. The second one is really T for true. Is that digital leaders know who they are at their core, and then they take their teams with them. They have that passion, they have that vision. And so it's really about being true to your core. And there's a lot of ways we can figure this out, and a lot of you know what it is. And so a conference like this is good because it helps us to reset. So we're going to do this exercise all together. So if you don't mind, if you can take out your mobile device, and some of you like, take it out, I never put it away. But if you can take it out, and then I'm gonna ask you a question here in a second, just a one-word, it's got a one-word answer, but I'm gonna ask you a question. We've done this now in 54 countries, and so we'll see if you break the record for the fastest response. And so this is my email address, it's just equalman@equalman.com, and then if you type in the subject, just word, W-O-R-D. So as you're doing that, this answer is just one word. It's going to be the word that pops immediately in your head when I ask this question. And the question is, as it relates to your digital stamp, your digital footprint, your digital shadow, if someone were to Google your name right now, someone Googled your name, what's the one word you want to show up 5 seconds from now? 5 years, 50 years, 5,000 years from today. What is that one word that you'd want to show up if someone were to Google your name? Now raise your hand if your word appears up on the screen once it, see if any of the, raise your hand if your word's up on this screen. Okay, so you guys are in good company. Those are the top words we've gotten from over 55 countries. So it's very uplifting to see that. If your word's not up there, that's also good. That means you're super unique, which is good. But this is really uplifting. I've always said when I travel the world, I've been blessed to do it, is that the one thing that always looks the same is a children's playground. And so it's really great to see that these are the top words that are out there for people at their core mission. And so what I'd like you to do is I want to take your word, and over the next couple weeks, what I'd love for you to do is take it to a sentence level. And so for example, my word's empower, and if I took that to a sentence level, I want to entertain, educate, and empower people to their best life. And so I want you to take your word, and over the next couple weeks, just write that out into a sentence. And it does take that long to do it. As Mark Twain once famously said, I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one. It really is hard to get to that sentence level, but hopefully you guys can do that over the next couple weeks. Because when you do that, and when you're focused on your true core as a digital leader, you also understand that throughout the day you should ask yourself, what's the one thing that if I do it well, makes everything else either easier or unnecessary? And when you do that, it's actually very liberating, very freeing, and if you're a Gen Y or Gen Z, that means that it feels like you're running through a field of gluten. It feels so good that you're out there doing that. All right, so we've got simple, we got T for true, and now we've got A for action. Nothing happens without action. Now, if I'm you, I might be sitting there going, this stuff seems pretty simple. And I'd say, yeah, it is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. So think about if you want to get in better shape. It's pretty simple. We got to exercise more. We've got to eat better, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And so what we looked at, we said, well, of course you have to take action. But then we wanted to see what's preventing a team from taking action. And there's a couple reasons that prevents them from taking action in these digital times, but the number one reason is that they are afraid to fail. That's the number one reason. And I thought when we kicked things off here, it was good when you think about living on that edge. They were saying you're going to fail. But it's all about that failure. That's how you learn. But the key is, you've probably heard that before, the key is you got to fail fast, fail forward, fail better. Fail fast. If you're going to do it, you want to do it cheap and you want to do it quick. And then if you want to fail forward, that means you're actually going to evaluate the failure. That's where most organizations and teams don't evaluate the failure, because it's uncomfortable for us to sit down and say, hey, we made a mistake, we failed, let's talk about it. But you need to do that in order to fail better. So a lot of us in here, especially in this country, you grew up either learning to play an instrument or you learned playing sports, or both. And you've heard the old adage that practice makes perfect, which is completely false. It's proper practice leads to progress, and improper practice can lead to permanence. Just like failure's not going to make you better, evaluated failure is going to make you better. That's how you fail fast, fail forward, and then fail better. And the key is to understand we're all going to make mistakes. We're all human. And so the key is, when we do make a mistake, how do we take those digital lemons and turn it into digital lemonade? And that's what the Red Cross does here. There's a person that works in the organization there that accidentally hit the wrong button, and she thought she was posting this to her personal Twitter account, but she posted this to the global Twitter account for the Red Cross. I had to look up hashtag getting slizzard. It just means getting drunk. So hashtag getting slizzard. But within 4 minutes, since the organization had allowed every volunteer access to the accounts, that's why the mistake happens. But then because everyone has access, within 4 minutes, someone posts this. Now, the person wasn't fired that posted the original tweet because they had a record amount of donations the week this happened. The New York Times, Huffington Post, they thought it was hilarious, so they gave them free earned media. The beer company that was mentioned, they said, hey, instead of drinking a pint of our beer, why don't you donate a pint of blood or donate some money to the Red Cross? And what that is, instead of thinking about being awesome all the time, it's about being flossome all the time. So that's what it means by living on the edge. It's being flossome. When you make a mistake, are you going to take the time to actually care enough to correct it? Or are you going to do some humor to make it better? So it's really about being as flossome as possible throughout the day. So now I'm going to go over just real quick, and I appreciate you guys listening to this story. A lot of you have asked me in the hallways, like, why do I wear these green glasses? And in life, you've got to remember that things happen for you, not to you. So things happen for you, not to you. So my whole career, because my name's Erik Qualman, I've been in the digital space now 27 years. When they hand out email addresses, it's first initial, last name, so it just happens to spell Equalman. And I hated being called Equalman the first 15 years of my career. You walk in as an intern, they're like, oh, Equalman can get the coffee, he's super fast, he's a superhero. Oh, Equalman can do this, just give it to him. But then a couple years ago, I learned to embrace it. I learned to kind of step into my story, and I hope if you leave with anything here today, it's just to step into your story. Because at first it can be uncomfortable, but then over the long haul, it's the most comfortable place that you can be, is actually stepping into your own story. Now, the reason I stepped into it was just by mistake. I happened to be doing this magazine interview around one of the books, and they said, hey, because you have this name that's like a superhero on your Twitter handle, do you mind if you wear some Clark Kent-like glasses? And I said, no, that sounds like fun. Let's do it. And they go, St. Patrick's Day is coming up. Do you mind if they're green? I go, no, that sounds like a fun time. Let's wear them. And they bring them out, and I go, whoa, those are really bright green. But then we take a picture. I don't think anything of it for the magazine. A couple weeks later, I fly to Kenya to give a talk. The night before, I go to a rescue shelter to adopt a baby cheetah. Not to take home, my wife would kill me, but just to support the local area. And on the ride over, the lady that I was with said, you know, we had Usain Bolt, the Olympic sprinter, here yesterday, and he adopted from the same litter that you're going to adopt from. And we filmed him, and we'd like to film you and put it together and then help us raise more money. So I said, no, that's great, let's do it. And then she looked at me and she goes, but when we're filming, we really want you to have your green glasses on. And I looked at her and I said, oh, I don't wear green glasses all the time. I look like an idiot walking around wearing bright green glasses all the time. And she goes, no, like everyone in Kenya, that's what they think you look like. And so long story longer is that now I'm stuck wearing these green glasses. But what I didn't know and realize at the time is it's really, you have to live on the edges. You don't want, if you think about the mall map, so the mall map, you are here, right here in the middle. You don't want to be in the middle. You've got to push it on either edge. And you've got to live in discomfort. If you want to innovate, you have to live in discomfort. So it's not the reason why I wear these green glasses, but it's been a byproduct that each and every day it reminds me to walk into that discomfort. And so for you, sometimes you can train yourself to walk in discomfort. You don't have to wear crazy glasses. But the next time you're at Starbucks, this is what I want you to do. The next time you're at Starbucks and you get up to the front of the register, I want you to ask for 10% off. Just ask for 10% off. It's going to make you feel uncomfortable. And 50% of the time, they're going to give it to you. So just ask for 10% off the next time you do that. So because of my name, I've done a lot of research around superheroes. And it turns out if you want to take action, one way to help you take action is to actually stand like a superhero. So if you don't mind, we're all going to, since sitting's the new smoking, we're all going to stand up right now. So we're all going to stand like superheroes. So you might wonder, what does a superhero stand like? Is you got to spread your legs a little further apart than normal, and then you'll take your fists and just kind of ball them up, and then put your shoulders back, take your fists and put them on your side. This is the Superman pose. If you want to do the Wonder Woman, it's just a slight head tilt like this. But if you do this, it'll help decrease the cortisol in your body by up to 25%. So cortisol is what causes stress. And so it'll help reduce the stress in your body by 25%. All right, thanks. Okay, thanks for doing that. Hopefully you're feeling better. You guys feeling better? Thank you, good. All right, so we've gone over simple, we've gone over T for true, we've gone over A for act, now we're on M for map. And it's really hard for a lot of the industries that we're in the room to have the 5- and 10-year plans because of the way that things are changing so quickly. So we still want to have a vision, but we need to be firm in our destination, but then flexible in our path on how we go about and get there. So firm in our destination and flexible in our path when we're talking about our moonshots. And just a quick example of what that looks like. So if you look at Steve Jobs, he's got his firm destination. He wants to put a dent in the universe, but it's no longer a linear path. And so at the age of 30, Apple fires him, so he goes over here. He starts Next Computers and then becomes the CEO of Pixar. Now around here, Apple's almost about to go out of business, so they go, we don't really have another play, let's ask Steve to come back. So he comes back. He's a much better leader because of his time at Pixar, and then also they use some of the software from Next in the new MacBooks. And so at the time of his death, he puts the dent in the universe. He has this firm destination to where they're the largest market cap of any company in the world. So it's firm in your destination, but flexible in your path on how you get there. So how many of you like to buy crackers online? How many of you buy crackers online? Yeah, most of us don't buy crackers online. So it would have been easy for Wheat Thins to sit there and fold their arms and go, all right, digital leadership, that's good for Ford or it's good for Nike. It's not for us, we sell crackers. But instead they go, let's go listen and see if anyone talks about crackers online. And sadly, a lot of people talk about crackers online. And they post stuff like, oh, I'm out of Wheat Thins, my life is officially over. When we talked like this when we opened with the thumbs up exercise, that people love telling us what they like and what they don't like, and it's on us to figure out how to take that information and surprise and delight them. Well, this is what that looks like.
This one's hilarious. Ah, I'm out of Wheat Thins. My life is officially over. Kind of dramatic. Tabitha. Yes. Okay, do you recall tweeting, I'm out of Wheat Thins. My life is officially over. Yeah. We got a hold of that. We just want you to be sure that you're aware that we have plenty of Wheat Thins. And that's for you. That's just a gift.
That is a lot of Wheat Thins. Oh my gosh.
Everybody in the van, let's go. In the truck. You take care, all right? Come on, boys. Who's next?
So thank you. They did a good job with that. And then when you look at it, throughout this is another, for a lot of you, this would be a key takeaway, is you've got to understand that the pioneers always get pushed back. Pioneers always get pushed back. And that can be super frustrating. I know that right now, a lot of you in this room, you're getting pushback for something you're trying to initiate. But you got to remind yourself that's actually a good thing. That means you're actually pioneering. Now, when you have to be concerned is when you're not getting pushback. That means you're not pioneering and you're about to be disrupted. And so, even though it's frustrating in the moment, just remind yourself that we're not using old maps to get to new destinations, that you're actually pioneering. That you're pioneering, and pioneers always get pushed back. All right, last but not least, it's P for people. That we need to surround ourselves with the right people. Obviously, we're doing that here today. So we need to do that offline, and now more and more we need to do it digitally. So I'm going to make the assumption that you know how to do it offline. And so how do we do it digitally? Well, there's a lot of ways to do it, but the most powerful way and the easiest way is what's called posting it forward. So when you think about a selfie mentality, this is the exact opposite. It's the unselfie mentality. So what posting it forward looks like is that you should do this. Just carve out 3 minutes of every one of your days. Just put it in your calendar, 3 minutes that you do this. And what posting it forward does is let's say your favorite tool of choice is email. Let's just say it's email. You find an article that you thought was interesting that you know that 2 other people would also enjoy, you forward that email to them. Because you're reminding them that your relationship matters. That your relationship does matter. And then if your favorite tool of choice is Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, you could use hashtag like FF for Follow Friday and say, here's 3 people that you should follow. Or here's 3 people in the community that everyone should know because of the great stuff that they're doing. And so that's what's called posting it forward. The science shows that it makes you, the poster, happy. It makes the recipient happy. But strangely enough, anyone that reads that publicly, it makes them happy as well. So essentially, you're networking before you actually need the network. And so over time, that's going to improve the employees you get, it's going to improve your partners, and it's going to improve your customers just by doing that. And so it's about being as consistent as possible. That's why I'm saying carve out 3 minutes a day to do that. Because everyone outside of this room doesn't understand the concept of networking before you need the network. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have gotten a call within the last 6 months from someone you haven't heard from in forever, and the whole time, the first 10 minutes of small talk, you're just trying to think through, what is it do they want? So how many of you have gotten that call in the last, yeah, we all have gotten that call. And they don't understand the concept of posting it forward or networking before you actually need the network. So those are the 5 habits. It's simple, true, act, map, and then people. And just out of curiosity, just there's so many different people in this room, I want to know how it breaks down. How many of you, by a show of hands, would you say that you're the strongest in S for simplification? Okay, decent amount on that one. What about T for true, that you're really good, you understand where you're at the core? Or a little smaller. What about for A for action? You're just really good at taking action? Okay, decent amount. What about M for map? You're a little more strategic. You're pretty firm in your destination. Okay, a little small. And then P for people. You're really good with people. Okay, there's a lot of you in here at that, so that's good. So the key is, as you leave here, my hope is that you took one thing away that you can utilize 5 seconds from now, but also 5 years from now. I could have sat up here and gone over, here's the latest trend, the latest trend, the latest trend. That's probably going to help you for the next 2 months. My hope is when we looked at these habits, that these habits stand the test of time. And we've already seen that over the last 8 years. And so it's really about, hopefully someone in here starts posting it forward, or maybe you start making a not yet list, or potentially when you look at it, you're going to stop multitasking as a team. Because at the end of the day, the beautiful thing about these digital stamps is that they can inspire your team 5 seconds from now, but they can also inspire people 5 years, 50 years, 500 years from today.
My digital stamp. My dad often asked, what footprints are you going to leave in the sand? After all, who am I? I'm just average, somewhat shy. Then I realized something, you see. It is up to me, my ultimate legacy. My grandchildren and great-grandchildren, what will they see and think of me? What is my digital legacy? Will they see that I pursued my dream, or that I settled for something in between? Digital footprints remain for all time, so I can't commit the ultimate crime. What is that crime, you say? It is, of course, not seizing the day. Yes, before I die, I'd rather fail than not even try. I will reach for the sky, laugh, and cry. My legacy, you see, is truly up to me. That's my view. But now I ask, what will you do? By Erik, Qualman.
Thank you.
What would be your ultimate digital legacy? Your ultimate stand on life?
Now, as I got off the plane here, there's 2 things that I love. There's a lot of things I love, but 2 things that stand out about the Philippines. Number 1, you love digital. All the data shows that. I can see it when I'm here. But most importantly, just the amount of smiles that happen here. It's incredible. And so when you think about your digital stamp, whatever you do on a day-to-day level for your job, is that if you're doing it well, at the end of it, it's going to lead to a smile. I know that sounds cheesy and it sounds cliche, but you're not going to be in business very long if you're not producing a smile at the end of whatever you're doing. And so what we're going to do here, we're going to end with a smiling exercise. And so what I'd like you to do is you're going to pair off with the person next to you. And if you sat by someone you know, then shame on you. But I think you're going to be really happy you did, because it's going to get a little uncomfortable here in a second. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to pair off with the person next to you. If you could please stand up. You're going to stand up, pair off with the person next to you. And you're going to turn and face each other. So whoever you're paired off with, you're going to turn and face them. And the person that has their back to this wall, so the person who's back, standing like I am right now, I want you to give your best Duchenne smile. That means your eyes are actually going to crinkle. So you're going to actually give your best Duchenne smile. And then I want this person to look deeply into that other person's eyes and try not to smile. Okay? Smiling, not smiling.